This task force was created to collect feedback from stakeholders to inform the development of future best practices regarding the care and treatment of survivors. Based on what this task force learns and studies, it will submit a report to the General Assembly and to the governor to serve as a guide on how to improve services for the sexual assault survivors here in our state of Missouri. This has been an amazing group of task force members to work with. Their commitment and their expertise on the issue and that of those willing to share their stories and experiences and ideas today are critical to how we move forward. We have a lot of work to do to end sexual assault, and our work today has meaning to impact that mission. Today, we will be learning about survivor privacy. First, I want to introduce you to the members of the task force. Joining us on the task force are Senator Holly Rader. Senator Rader is from District 27, which is in the Sikeston area, and she represents 6 counties in southeast Missouri. I'm State Senator Jill Shoup. I am with District 24. I represent 22 municipalities in West St. Louis County. Also part of the task force is Representative David Evans of District 154 in West Plains, Representative Yolanda Young, District 22 in the Kansas City area, Colonel Eric Olson of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, Stacy Bollinger, Missouri State Highway Patrol Crime Lab Deputy Director, Catherine Vanier, Missouri Office of Prosecution Services, Special Victims Resource Prosecutor, Sarah Earhart Reed from the Department of Health and Senior Services, Amy Schwartz from the Missouri Hospital Association, Julie Donnellan with the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault. She is the president and CEO. We have Tammy Killen from the YWCA of St. Joseph. She is the CEO there. Sergeant Jason Strong from the St. Joseph Police Department, and Jessica Seitz of Missouri Kids First. She is the executive director. Public testimony today in the area of survivor privacy will come from Julie Murray, who is a survivor and who did give us permission to use her full name, Jennifer Green with St. Luke's Healthcare, Dr. Jennifer Hansen with Children's Mercy, Joe Taylor, who is a private attorney, Amy Feit with the who is a Christian County prosecuting attorney, and Christy Patterson, Ripley County Prosecutor's Office representative. Sarah is going to take it from here and give you some information if you are watching on how you can participating by providing your questions and as well as by filling out a survey, which you will be able to do anonymously if you prefer. So welcome and thank you. Sarah?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Earhart Reed with the Department of Health and Senior Services. If you are providing testimony or you are participating and watching today and you'd like to share your feedback with the task force, we do have a survey set up and the link is on your screen here. So surveymonkey.com/r/MO rights task force. And I'll put that in the Q&A box today before the hearing is over. You can also find that on the Department of Public Safety's website. And the survey will close on September 30th, and we have one additional hearing coming up next week. So we have plenty of time for you to submit your feedback. And like Senator Shoup said, your feedback can be provided anonymously if you prefer to do so.
Next today, we have speaking Jennifer Green from St. Luke's Healthcare. Jennifer?
My name is Jennifer Green, and I have been a sexual assault nurse examiner, forensic nurse in Missouri since 2008. Currently, I'm the clinical manager for the St. Luke's Health System Clinical Forensic Care Program, which provides clinical forensic services, including sexual assault and SANE exams and evidence collection to 14 hospitals in Kansas City, metropolitan and rural areas of Missouri. I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to provide my expertise and perspective on some very important issues that impact our programs as SANE nurses, but then also our patients as well. In preparation for my testimony today, I surveyed and gathered responses from the sexual assault nurse examiner programs in the state of Missouri to present a collective overview of the logistical challenges of non-report evidence collection and how recent statutory changes and statewide repository has affected our programs. I hope to provide suggestions for future improvements in Missouri in their current response to victims of sexual violence, particularly those who do not immediately want to report to law enforcement. First, I applaud the Missouri Attorney General's office for making significant and impactful strides to address victims' rights, reporting options, and access to sexual assault nurse examiners. With the implementation of recent statutes in Missouri, we have witnessed firsthand increased empowerment of our patients. However, SANE programs continue to encounter boundaries in non-report evidence collection options because of the state repository limitations. Each program is addressing the repository limitations differently, and these inconsistencies affect victims' experience and access to justice simply by where they go to obtain a sexual assault exam and evidence collection. Prior to 2018, Missouri SANE programs' non-report kit collection and storage practices varied widely by program and jurisdiction. Some law enforcement agencies and crime labs held non-report items collected during the SANE exams, including sexual assault evidence kits, blood, urine samples for toxicology, and other items with potential evidentiary value. In jurisdictions that did not offer storage, SANE programs retained non-report kits and evidence themselves and stored them for a variety of amount of time, ranging from 128 days to 18 months or sometimes longer. Some program storage options included refrigeration, but not all. If this was not available, items were stored at room temperature, which subsequently compromised the integrity and preservation of evidence. Following the passage of Senate Bill 569 and with the establishment of the Missouri Kit Repository, there still remains significant variability in kit and evidence retention by SANE programs across the state. Because the repository will only store sexual assault evidence kits, SANE programs are left to decide on their own what to do with other potential evidence collected during an exam, including blood, urine, clothing, condoms, tampons, bedding, and other items of evidentiary value. Several SANE programs have chosen not to participate in the repository at all and instead hold non-report evidence and long-term storage at their program or hospital for a period of time ranging from 20 or up to 80 years, aligning with the statutory limitations for sexual offenses. Other SANE programs have decided to send the non-report kits and other to the repository with other evidentiary items to the jurisdictional law enforcement agency or crime lab for storage if they're willing to accept. The SANE programs that don't have this as an option that are sending kits to the repository are now faced with the decision of what to do with remaining potential evidence not accepted. Some programs hold these additional items for a period of 30 days or 18 months and then destroy them, while other programs have decided to hold all non-report items indefinitely. Unfortunately, some SANE programs do not have any storage space or refrigeration available to them. There are programs that address their lack of accessible storage by not offering to collect forensically indicated items outside the sexual assault evidence kit if patients do not immediately file a police report at the time of the exam. The sexual assault evidence kit is certainly important should a victim decide later to file a police report, but there is potential for significant loss of additional evidence and all of the other items that are not being stored consistently or at all. For example, when sexual assault violence occurs in conjunction with alcohol or drug intoxication, whether we're talking about voluntary or involuntary consumption, the toxicology results found in the initial blood and urine samples collected during an exam will help to establish drug concentration thresholds and explain gaps in victims' memory and behavior. This information may ultimately prove in court a victim's inability to consent, which could lead to conviction. However, victims of drug facilitated or incapacitated sexual assaults are much less likely to consent to a police involvement at the time of the SANE exam for a variety of reasons. Yet, if and when a police report is made, a victim may have little or no memory of the assault, complicating the investigation and making tangible evidence even more valuable. Similar arguments may be made for all other potential evidence outside of that sexual assault kit. If the evidence is not collected, stored properly, or destroyed before a police report is filed, the potential knowledge that evidence contained is now forever lost. During the first 6 months of 2021, the St. Luke's Clinical Forensic Program performed 155 sexual assault exams and evidence collection. 55 of these patients, roughly 36%, did not report to law enforcement at the time of the exam. Now, the conversion rate of non-report to report averages about 10 patients per year for one of our jurisdictions in our catchment area, which is consistent with other SANE programs locally and nationally. The majority of these victims choose to file a report within a month, but I know personally of one victim who converted from a non-report to report 4 years and 11 months after the assault. While the number of victims who choose to file a delayed report are small, they are not insignificant. It is certainly not insignificant to that one person who gathered enough courage to endure the SANE exam, which is very invasive, and then file a delayed police report that ultimately led to conviction of sexual predator. The national trend of testing previously untested sexual assault kits provides us with staggering statistics about the importance of testing evidence in sexual assaults. For example, in 2014, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation launched the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative to test 2,200 previously untested sexual assault kits. One of the several findings from this initiative showed potential linking cases together and identifying serial sexual offenders. Initially, they had 252 SANE kits that were tested on victims who knew their assailant. Of those 252 kits, 206 had criminal histories and a national or state reporting system. More than 1/3 of the suspects completed at least one other sexual offense. 74% committed prior offenses and 43% committed offenses after that kit was collected. Of those with prior sexual offenses, 56% committed more than one sexual offense and 66 committed more than one additional sexual offense post-SANE kit collection, with an average of 4.8 sexual offenses per offender. Additionally, victims identified suspects had significantly higher rates of other kinds of violent offenses in their criminal histories, with nearly 80% of the suspects committing at least one other violent offense, like aggravated battery, burglary, criminal threat, domestic violence, disorderly conduct, harassment, arson, and murder. The Kansas SAKI, or the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative Executive Summary, concluded that when these offenders were not held accountable for the offense for which that sexual assault kit was collected, they went on to commit additional offenses. In the National Institute of Justice 2017 publication titled National Best Practice for Sexual Assault Kits, a multidisciplinary approach, it emphasized that the primary purpose of a non-report SANE exam is to preserve evidence in the interest of justice without pressuring a traumatized victim to decide on the spot whether to activate a criminal investigation. All evidence is critical to holding a perpetrator accountable. Yet presently in the state of Missouri, sexual assault victims will have differing access to justice depending upon where they seek SANE services and when they make a police report. The National Protocol for Sexual Assault Medical Forensic Examinations, Adult and Adolescent, Second Edition, recognizes specimen collection for medical purposes should be kept and processed at the medical facility, and specimens collected for forensic analysis should be transferred to the crime lab or other specified laboratories via chain of custody. Secure storage sites should be designated, and storage requirements should be consistent across jurisdiction. Those involved with storing biological evidence should be knowledgeable regarding optimal storage conditions, as well as hazards for handling and storing evidence such as blood and urine. Ensuring jurisdictional policies are in place to address evidence storage in cases where patients are undecided about reporting is recommended. As a sexual assault nurse examiner practicing in the state of Missouri, I advocate for statewide consistent approach in ensuring proper preservation of all potential evidence in non-reports, not just in sexual assault kits themselves, especially considering that we're moving towards a statewide SANE program that will be reaching hospitals that lack individual policy and procedure and equipment. Further regulations should include standardized storage practices and options for all evidence, including blood, urine specimens, and should specify the conditions of storage and a minimum retention period to align with statute of limitations. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak on this very important topic, and I will be happy to address any questions you have.
Thank you so much, Jen, for that information and for the work you do as a SANE nurse. I have a question for you, and then we'll open it up to other members of the committee. Part of what you told us about was the people that changed from non-report to report over whatever periods of time. The number was 10. And was that number, I would love to hear it in terms of a percent, if you're able to provide it that way, so that we have a sense of kind of the numbers of people, at least in your experience, that have converted and decided to report.
That, I don't know if I can give you that exact number, and that came from one of our jurisdictions here in Kansas City. So I'm not 100% sure like what their total volume.
Right.
And here's the reason why is because we have a lot of programs in Kansas City that do provide evidence collection for that jurisdiction. And we don't necessarily know how many of those belong to that jurisdiction that are unreported because they didn't report.
Right.
But we can tell you that that agency came forward and said we have 10 people that came to us after SANE exam and did convert and eventually did report. I will say that from my experience with my program, this year alone, we expect to have pretty close to 300 SANE exams, and we are averaging about that many conversions. We deal with about 52 different jurisdictions in our catchment area, so hopefully that gives you a little bit more information.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Do any members of the committee of the task force have questions? All right, Jen, thank you again for your work and for your testimony here today. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.